What if the thoughts you are desperately trying to silence are the very ones keeping you trapped? Have you ever noticed that the harder you try to push a worry away, the louder it screams for your attention? There is a strange kind of freedom in realizing that you do not have to fight your own mind to find peace. Most of your exhaustion is not caused by the thoughts themselves, but by the endless war you wage against them. If you have ever felt stuck in a loop of overthinking, anxious about a conversation that already happened, or trapped by a feeling you know is not helping you, this is for you. Stay until the end, because the final lesson may change the way you see this pain forever. We all know the feeling. It is late at night, or a quiet moment in the middle of the day, and a thought takes hold. You replay a conversation, wondering if you said the wrong thing. You project into the future, building scenarios of failure, rejection, or loss. You know the thought is not helping you. You know it is draining your energy, and yet you feel entirely trapped by it. You try to reason with it. You try to fix it. You try to force yourself to just stop thinking. But here is the truth few people want to face. The tighter you hold, the more you suffer. In Buddhist thought, this struggle is the very root of our suffering. We believe that if we can just control our thoughts, if we can just figure everything out, we will finally be at peace. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us that the mind is essentially a sense organ. Just as the ear hears sound and the eye sees light, the mind produces thoughts. It is not a flaw in your design. It is simply what the mind does. The suffering begins when we attach ourselves to every thought, believing that because a thought exists, it must be true and it must be obeyed. Imagine a quiet room. Suddenly, a bird flies in through an open window and panics. It crashes against the walls, thrashing against the glass, desperate to escape. If you try to catch the bird, it only panics more. It flies faster, creating more chaos, more noise, more destruction. But what happens if you just sit still? What happens if you simply leave the window open and wait? Eventually, the bird settles. It realizes it is not trapped, and in its own time, it finds its way back out into the sky. Your thoughts are that bird. When you face work stress, the fear of falling behind in life, or the pain of feeling ignored by someone you care about, the mind panics. It thrashes against the walls of your awareness. And when you try to catch those thoughts, when you analyze them, judge them, or try to force them to stop, you only create more noise. You trap the bird inside. Ask yourself, what thought are you trying to wrestle into submission today? What fear are you fighting, hoping it will surrender and leave you alone? What are you afraid will happen if you just let the thought be there without trying to solve it? Pause, breathe, observe the thought without following it. Let the feeling rise without making it your identity. You do not have to silence the mind to find quiet, because peace is not something you achieve by conquering your thoughts. It is something you make space for by leaving the window open. But stepping back from the noise is only the first step, because beneath every loud, looping reaction, there is a quieter fear waiting to be understood. And this is where the next truth begins. Why does the mind refuse to be quiet? Here is the truth beneath the noise. The overthinking, the spiraling, the endless chatter, none of it is the actual problem. We spend so much time fighting the surface of our anxiety. We hate the looping thoughts about a fading relationship, a mistake at work, or the uncertainty of tomorrow. We believe that if we could just figure out the right answer to the thought, the mind would finally rest. But the mind is not trying to solve a problem. It is trying to distract you from a pain. The noise is not a disease. It is a shield. Buddhism teaches us to look closely at the root of our suffering, to observe not just the grasping hands, but the fear that makes them grasp. The mind clings to a looping thought because analyzing feels safer than feeling. It is easier to worry about 1,000 hypothetical futures than to sit with the quiet, heavy grief of the present moment. Your mind is generating noise to drown out a hidden wound. Imagine a beautiful, ancient watchtower. High above, a heavy brass alarm bell is ringing frantically, shaking the walls with its deafening sound. You run up the stairs, covering your ears, desperately trying to muffle the bell. You wrap blankets around it. You pull at the ropes. You curse the metal for being so loud. But you are so focused on the noise that you forget to look out the window. You forget to look at the fire burning in the fields below. The bell is not your enemy. It is just doing its job. It is warning you of the fire. In our daily lives, we rarely look at the fire. We treat our inner lives like complex systems that must be perfectly optimized. When the world changes rapidly around us, and our sense of deep, meaningful purpose feels fragile, we become obsessed with strict internal alignment. We try to constantly oversee and synthesize our emotions, treating a broken heart, a fear of failure, or a deep sense of inadequacy as a technical error that needs to be fixed. We believe that if we just gather enough mental data, replay the conversations enough times, and enforce rigid control over our reactions, we can protect ourselves from ever being hurt or irrelevant again. But this exhausting hypervigilance is just the alarm bell ringing. The hidden wound is often very simple: the fear of being left behind, the terror of being fundamentally flawed, the slow grief of a life chapter ending. Ask yourself, when your mind is racing, in the middle of the night, what is it trying to protect you from feeling? If you were to completely drop the worry about tomorrow, what old sadness or fear would you have to sit with today? What is the quiet ache hiding just beneath the loud anxiety? Pause. Breathe. Do not fight the noise. Gently ask the racing mind, what are you trying to protect? Let that sink in. You do not need to hate the protector. You only need to acknowledge the wound it guards. Because the moment you stop treating your mind as a machine to be perfectly controlled, you realize the ultimate trap we all fall into: the desperate, exhausting belief that you must solve every thought in order to be free. And this is where the next truth begins. 3. The illusion of figuring it out. What if the harder you try to figure things out, the further peace moves away? Here is a truth that is deeply uncomfortable for the modern mind. You cannot think your way out of overthinking. When we feel trapped by a thought, our first instinct is to solve it. We treat our emotional pain like a puzzle with a missing piece. We believe that if we just analyze the situation from one more angle, if we just replay that painful conversation one more time, or if we map out our future perfectly, we will finally uncover the secret to feeling secure. We obsess over finding closure after a relationship ends. We constantly evaluate our choices against the success of others, trying to calculate the exact formula to avoid failure. We think that certainty is the antidote to anxiety, but Buddhist wisdom teaches us something entirely different. The desire for certainty is not the cure for suffering. It is the very engine of it. In Buddhist thought, the mind is a restless seeker. It craves a solid foundation in a world defined by impermanence. We are taught that true wisdom is not found in having all the answers, but in becoming comfortable with not knowing. When you try to figure it out, you are demanding that life stand still so you can measure it. But life does not stand still. Imagine a person standing by a lake on a windy day. The water is rough, choppy, and chaotic, and the person wishes to see the perfect reflection of the moon on the surface. Frustrated by the waves, they wade into the water and try to smooth it with their bare hands. They press down on the ripples, trying to force the water to be flat. But every time their hands touch the surface, they create new ripples, new splashes, new chaos. The only way the water will ever become calm is if they step back, stand on the shore, and simply leave it alone. Your mind is that lake. The rough water is the daily stress of life, the pressure to succeed, the sting of being criticized, the heavy burden of conflict, the creeping fear of feeling behind. When you dive into the thoughts and try to manually smooth them out, you are just splashing water. You are creating more anxiety in the name of finding peace. Ask yourself, look at your own life. Has worrying about tomorrow ever actually changed the outcome? Has over-analyzing a past mistake ever truly erased the pain of it? What would happen if, just for today, you stopped trying to solve the riddle of your life? What if there is actually nothing to figure out right now? Pause. Breathe. Notice the desperate urge to solve the moment. When the urge arises, do not fight it, but do not obey it either. Stop trying to force the water to be flat. You do not have to find the answer today. You do not have to achieve perfect closure to move forward. Let that sink in. You can simply allow the question to exist, because true clarity does not arrive when you finally finish the puzzle. It arrives when you realize you no longer need the pieces to fit. But what do we do when the thoughts just keep coming, flowing endlessly without our permission? And this is where the next truth begins. 4. The river of thoughts. Have you ever felt like you are drowning in your own mind, swept away by a current you did not choose to enter? Here is a truth that can change the way you experience your inner world. The problem is not the water. The problem is that you keep jumping in. From the moment we wake up, the mind begins to rush. A memory from 5 years ago suddenly surfaces. A sharp fear about a meeting tomorrow takes hold. A sudden wave of loneliness about a friendship that quietly faded washes over you. We feel overwhelmed by the sheer volume and speed of our own thoughts. When the noise gets too loud, our instinct is to fight back. We try to build dams. We try to block the flow. We tell ourselves, I should not be thinking about this anymore. We try to force the water to stop, but Buddhist wisdom teaches us the profound practice of observing rather than absorbing. One of the deepest lessons of Buddhism is impermanence. Thoughts are passing phenomena. They arise, they exist for a moment, and they pass away. Suffering is born the moment we identify with the thought, believing that because a fear enters the mind, it must define our reality. Buddhism reminds us that you are not the thought. You are the silent awareness watching the thought. Imagine standing on the bank of a fast-moving river. The water is full of debris, fallen branches, dead leaves, floating pieces of wood. If you jump into the river and try to catch every heavy branch, or desperately push every leaf away, the current will drag you under. You will become exhausted, thrashing against the water. But what if you just stay on the solid ground of the riverbank? You can watch a dark, heavy branch float by and simply acknowledge it. You can say, "There goes a heavy branch." You do not have to dive in and wrestle it. It will eventually float out of sight. This is exactly how we experience our daily lives. A heavy thought of comparison hits you while looking at the lives of others. A sudden spike of fear about your worth or your future arises. Instead of watching it, you jump into the river. You follow the fear down the current. You let it drag you into a storm of anxiety, wrestling with the debris of your own mind. Think about your own life. How often do you jump into the river of a painful thought just because it appeared? Do you follow every anxious scenario to its worst possible conclusion? What would happen if you let the thought flow past you without jumping in? Pause, breathe, step back onto the riverbank. When the next fearful thought arrives, picture yourself standing on the shore. Watch it float by. You are the observer, not the debris. You do not have to obey every sound your mind makes. You can let the mind be noisy while you remain completely still. You can allow the river to flow without letting it wash you away. But how do we actually learn to sit with that noise without reacting, when the urge to fight back is so incredibly strong? And this is where the next truth begins. 5. The practice of letting the mind be noisy. What if true peace has nothing to do with silence? Here is the truth we often resist. You can be at peace while your mind is entirely chaotic. When we begin to seek inner calm, we often make a painful mistake. We believe that a peaceful mind must be an empty mind. We think that if we are truly mindful, or if we have finally let go, the voices of doubt, fear, and overthinking will completely shut down. So when you try to rest, or when you sit quietly after a long day, and your brain immediately starts listing regrets, replaying arguments, or projecting future disasters, you feel defeated. You judge yourself. You think the noise means you are failing. You believe you must silence the chaos before you can finally relax. But Buddhist wisdom teaches us that resisting the noise is what gives it power. Non-attachment does not mean having zero thoughts. It means those thoughts no longer have you. Mindfulness is not the aggressive act of emptying the mind. It is the gentle practice of changing your relationship to the mind. Buddhism reminds us that the goal is not to eradicate the noise, but to welcome it without serving it tea. You simply let the emotions rise and pass naturally without taking them personally. Imagine the vast, open sky. Throughout the year, the sky experiences every possible type of weather. Dark, heavy storm clouds roll through, bringing violent thunder and rain. Soft, white clouds drift by quietly. Sometimes the sky is perfectly clear, and other times it is thick with an unmoving fog. But the sky never fights the weather. The sky never panics and says, "I must push these storm clouds away right now." The sky simply holds the space. It allows the clouds to enter, and it allows them to leave. The clouds can temporarily block the sun, but they can never damage the sky. They only pass through it. Your deep awareness is the sky. Your racing thoughts are the weather. In your daily life, when you face an unexpected setback at work, or when a family conflict leaves you feeling completely unseen, a dark storm cloud of anxiety rolls into your mind. You suddenly feel overwhelmed by the pressure to defend yourself, or the heavy burden of being misunderstood. But the problem is not the storm cloud. The problem is that you have forgotten you are the sky. You shrink your identity down and convince yourself that you are the storm. Think about your own life. How often do you demand perfectly clear weather in your mind? How much energy do you exhaust fighting the fog of confusion, or the sudden rain of an old sadness? What would happen if you simply let the sky be cloudy today, without trying to violently blow the weather away? Pause. Breathe. The next time your mind is incredibly loud, do not ask for silence. Allow the mind to be noisy. Let the storm pass without becoming the storm. You can watch the chaos without stepping into it. You can feel the heavy presence of a difficult thought and still remain vast, open, and untouched. Because true peace is not the absence of storms. It is the quiet understanding that the storm is not you. But even when we learn to watch the clouds, we often secretly hold on to the reasons they formed. We cling tightly to our justifications and our past hurts. And this is where the next truth begins. 6. Dropping the story. Have you ever noticed how carefully we build a home for the very thoughts that hurt us? Here is the quiet truth about our deepest anxieties. We do not just feel our pain, we narrate it. When a painful event happens, an opportunity slips away, a relationship fractures, or you feel entirely ignored by someone you care about, you feel a sudden, sharp sting. That is a natural human reaction. But the original sting is not what keeps you awake at night, staring at the ceiling. What traps you is the story you attach to the sting. You tell yourself, "They ignored me because I am not fundamentally good enough." You whisper, This always happens to me, and it will always happen to me. You build an intricate timeline, connecting this single moment of hurt to every past failure and every future fear. The mind loves a story, even a tragic one, because a story feels like a form of control. We cling to our painful narratives because letting them go feels like letting the person who hurt us off the hook, or admitting we have no idea what the future holds. Buddhist wisdom teaches that while pain is inevitable in this life, suffering is completely optional. The suffering is the story. The Buddha spoke of the second arrow. If you are struck by an arrow, you feel the physical pain of the wound. That is the first arrow. But then you shoot a second arrow into yourself by asking, why me? Who shot this? How long will it hurt? What if I never heal? The second arrow is the narrative you weave around the event. Buddhism reminds us that to find true inner peace, we must learn to experience the raw, simple emotion of the first arrow without the heavy, exhausting baggage of the storyline. Imagine a thick, dark, heavy winter coat that someone handed you during a bitter, freezing storm. It kept you warm when you desperately needed it, protecting you from the icy wind. But now, the winter has passed. The sun is shining, and the air is bright and warm. Yet, you are still walking around wearing the heavy coat. You are sweating, exhausted, and barely able to carry its weight. When someone asks why you do not simply take it off, you say, because it was cold once, and I must remember how the cold felt, so I am never caught off guard again. You are carrying the memory of the winter into the middle of the summer. In our modern lives, we wear our old stories exactly like that heavy coat. We carry the memory of being rejected, the sting of a public failure, or the fear of trusting someone new everywhere we go. When a friend cancels plans, or when you feel the pressure to succeed comparing yourself to peers, you do not just experience the present moment. You put on the heavy coat. You wrap yourself in the story of all the times you were left behind or felt inadequate. You let a past narrative dictate your present reality. Ask yourself, what painful story are you still repeating to yourself about your life? Is your mind playing a tired, heavy script that says you are always unlucky or always destined to be alone? What are you afraid will happen if you finally take off the coat? Who would you be without that familiar, heavy story weighing you down? Pause, breathe. Notice when the mind starts to weave a tragedy out of a single moment. Let the feeling rise without making it your identity. Feel the sting of the first arrow, but refuse to shoot the second. You do not have to carry the weight of yesterday, just to protect yourself from tomorrow. Let the emotion pass without building a permanent monument to it. Because dropping the story is incredibly liberating, but it also leaves us standing empty-handed in the present moment. And this is where the next truth begins. 7. The power of the pause. What if the most courageous thing you can do when your mind is racing is absolutely nothing? Here is a truth we often forget in a world that demands constant action. You do not have to answer every thought the moment it speaks. When a painful memory surfaces or an anxious thought suddenly grips you, it brings with it a false sense of absolute urgency. Your mind screams that you must figure this out right now. If someone sends you a critical message, you feel a burning need to defend yourself instantly. If a wave of doubt about your future hits you late at night, you feel compelled to map out a 10-year plan before you can fall asleep. We are conditioned to believe that every internal feeling requires an immediate external reaction. We treat our thoughts like ringing telephones that must be answered before they hang up. We obey the noise because the noise feels important. But Buddhist wisdom teaches us the profound liberation found in the space between a thought and a reaction. In Buddhist thought, much of our deep exhaustion is simply a reflex. We suffer because we blindly follow wherever the mind leads, without ever stopping to question the path. Mindfulness is not about preventing the thought from arising. It is about extending the quiet space right after it appears. It is in that quiet space, the pause, that your true freedom lives. You break the chain of suffering not by destroying the thought, but by refusing to blindly react to it. Imagine a clear glass of water resting on a wooden table. Over time, a handful of dirt and sand has settled perfectly at the bottom, leaving the water above it crystal clear. But the moment you panic and shake the glass, the sand stirs. The water quickly becomes cloudy, dark, and entirely opaque. You cannot see through it at all. If you try to reach your hand into the glass to manually pull the floating dirt out, or if you shake the glass harder hoping to somehow fix it, you only make the water darker. The only way to make the water clear again is to set the glass down. You must do absolutely nothing. You must give the sand the time and stillness it needs to settle on its own. Your mind operates the exact same way. When you face a sudden rejection, a harsh criticism, or a deeply overwhelming day at work, your glass is shaken. The thoughts become muddy and chaotic. If you immediately act from that place, if you send the angry reply, if you abruptly quit the difficult project, if you let the spiral of self-doubt completely dictate your evening, you are acting blindly through muddy water. You are trying to fix the dirt by forcefully stirring it. Ask yourself, think about your own life. How many of your deepest regrets or longest arguments were born in moments where you refused to pause? How much suffering do you create by treating every single thought as an absolute emergency that must be solved right now? What would happen if you simply set the glass down, pause, breathe, do your part, then release the urge to act instantly? When the mind screams for an immediate reaction, simply watch the urgency rise and fall without obeying it. Stop trying to force the dirt out of the water. You have permission to wait. You do not have to chase every fearful thought down the rabbit hole the second it appears. Let that sink in. Because true clarity is never found in the initial panic. It is quietly waiting for you on the other side of the pause. But as we learn to step back and sit in the pause, a new challenge arises. When the muddy water finally begins to settle, we see the raw fear driving the noise. And our immediate instinct is to judge ourselves for being so afraid. And this is where the next truth begins. 8. Forgiving the mind for being afraid. Have you ever been angry at yourself for not being stronger? Here is the quiet truth about inner peace. You cannot hate your way into a calm mind. When we begin to practice mindfulness, when we try to observe the river or sit with the stormy sky, we often encounter a harsh internal critic. The moment an anxious thought arises about a fading relationship or a deep fear of falling behind your peers grips you, a second voice steps in. This voice says, "You should be over this by now. You are failing at being peaceful. Why are you still so afraid?" We weaponize our desire for peace against ourselves. We treat our fear, our overthinking, and our anxiety as personal failures. We believe that if we were just stronger, or wiser, or better, the mind would finally be completely silent. We demand perfection, and we punish ourselves when we find only humanity. But Buddhist wisdom teaches us the profound necessity of deep, radical self-compassion. The Buddha did not teach us to conquer the mind with force, but to illuminate it with understanding. In Buddhist thought, hostility toward your own suffering only multiplies it. When you judge your anxiety, you are simply adding more noise to the chaos. The path to non-attachment is not paved with self-loathing. It is paved with the gentle realization that your mind is doing exactly what it was conditioned to do. It is trying to keep you safe in a deeply uncertain world. Imagine a small, frightened dog cowering under a dark table during a terrifying thunderstorm. The dog is shaking violently, growling at the shadows, and barking loudly at every single crash of thunder. If you crawl under the table and scream at the dog to stop making noise, If you hit it or forcefully drag it out into the open room, the dog will only become more terrified. It will bite. It will panic. The only way to calm the dog is to sit quietly nearby, speak in a low, gentle voice, and offer a slow, steady presence. You do not demand that the dog stop being afraid. You simply show the dog that it is safe right now. Your anxious mind is that frightened dog. When you face the overwhelming pressure of modern life, the deep fear of loneliness, or the slow ache of a dream that did not work out, your mind barks at the thunder. It loops, it obsesses, it spirals, trying desperately to warn you of danger. When you judge yourself for this, when you hate yourself for overthinking, or berate yourself for feeling hurt by a passing comment, you are screaming at the frightened dog. Under the table, you are making your own mind an unsafe place to exist. Ask yourself, how much extra suffering do you create by constantly judging your considered own reactions? Are you demanding that your mind be perfectly peaceful while secretly hating it every time it shows fear? What would happen if you finally stopped punishing your mind for trying to protect you? Pause. Breathe. The next time the fear rises, do not meet it with harsh judgment. Gently acknowledge it. Say to your mind, I hear you. I know you are afraid, but we are okay right now. You do not have to fight the fear to diminish its power. You only need to stop fighting yourself for feeling it. Let that sink in. You can allow the mind to be frightened without letting it drive the car. Because the ultimate freedom is not a life completely devoid of fear or noise. It is stepping into a vastness where fear and noise simply do not matter anymore. And this is where the final truth brings it all together. 9. Becoming the sky. What if you finally stopped trying to escape your own mind? We began this journey, looking at the deep exhaustion of fighting your own thoughts. We spoke about the desperate trap of the looping mind, the late nights, staring at the ceiling, the endless replay of painful conversations, the frantic urge to control an uncertain future. For so long, you have believed that if you could just silence the noise, you would finally be free. You believed that a quiet life required you to violently conquer your own anxiety. But think about everything we have uncovered. The heavy brass bell ringing in the watchtower is not your enemy. It is simply warning you of the hidden wound. The rough water on the lake cannot be smoothed by your restless hands. You do not have to wrestle the panicked bird into submission. You only need to leave the window open and wait. You do not have to jump into the rapid river to fight the heavy debris of your fears. You can stand quietly on the solid ground of the shore. You can take off the heavy winter coat of your old, painful stories. You can set the glass down and allow the muddy water to clear. And above all, you can stop screaming at the frightened dog hiding under the table. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that the ultimate liberation is not fundamentally altering what the mind does. It is shifting who you believe you are in relation to it. As long as you believe you are the thought, you will always be at the mercy of the wind. But the moment you step back, everything changes. You are not the transient noise. You are the profound, unbroken silence underneath it. You are the vast, open sky. The sky does not panic when a storm arrives. It simply holds the space. It knows that every cloud, no matter how dark or heavy, is entirely subject to impermanence. The storms of your life will still come. There will still be days when the pressure feels heavy, when you feel misunderstood by those you love, and when the future looks entirely unwritten. The mind will still generate noise, but you no longer have to obey it. You do not have to answer every anxious thought like an emergency. You can simply allow the weather to happen. Ask yourself one final time. Look at the thought that felt so heavy, so all-consuming when you first started listening. Can you see it now for what it truly is? It is just a ripple on the lake. It is just a dark cloud drifting across the horizon. It has no power to trap you, unless you choose to build a cage for it. You do not have to solve it today. You do not have to understand it completely. You only need to let it pass. Because peace is not something you chase down and capture. It is what remains when you finally stop fighting. It is the quiet self-respect of knowing that the mind can be completely chaotic, yet you remain entirely untouched. If these lessons touched your heart, share this video with someone who may need a little more peace today. You can let go now.